As a native of Greensboro and a spouse of a 1972 Guilford graduate, I have known of Coach Jack Jensen for many years. I knew him in terms of championships, of his players, of being inducted into halls of fame. But it was not until I became his minister in 1997 that I came to know the man, Jack Jensen. Now, I had been out of the community for a while, so I was not up on how Jack's career. And when Jack would be present every Sunday morning at 8:45 service, my initial thought was that Jack had retired. And then I came to learn that very often, as JC mentioned, Jack was driving back late at night in order to be present the next Sunday morning. We gather together this afternoon with a collection of our memories and images of this man. And as I share a few with you, I invite you to entertain your own memories, your own images of Jack Jensen. The story was shared with me last night by Gene Wheeling, who is also a 72 graduate of Guilford, but also was in the 8th grade when Jack came to teach at Elkin High School. And Gene shared with me that when Jack came into the classroom, he was wearing a pink Oxford button-down shirt and red Italian shoes. And he drove a brand new burgundy Pontiac. Gene said he was hot. And all the girls there at Elkin High School just had crushes on Jack Jensen. But the more you came to know him, the more you came to learn about this humble individual. After I left Guilford College Church, Jack would call me on a regular basis, and we would get together from time to time. And there was one time that we met at a restaurant in Kernersville. It was either a Monday or a Tuesday. I cannot remember exactly when, but as always, our conversation began with Jack asking about me. He wanted to know how I was doing, about my family, about our children. And then about 15 or 20 minutes into the conversation, I attempted to turn it around to him. And I said, Jack, what's been happening in your life lately? And he said, well, we just won a national championship in golf. This was 2005. And then Jack proceeded to tell me about the other national championships. He was so humbled, he kept much of this to himself. And Marcia said that when they moved from New Garden Road, Jack requested that they not take all the medals and the trophies except the championship trophies. He did allow her to do that. We have heard about Jack Jensen as coach, as teacher, as mentor, as church member, as husband and father. In each of these categories, Jack taught us lessons. I remember one Sunday morning after the 8:45 service, the title of my sermon was Keeping Focus. And in that sermon, I had used the example that I had witnessed the day before of a professional ball game. And in this ball game, one of the players lost his focus, and just for a few minutes, by not keeping his focus, it allowed the other team to score. And in my simple way, I said, here is this professional athlete making millions of dollars, and he too has trouble focusing. No wonder we have trouble focusing in our lives. Well, at the end of the service, as Jack was coming out, he leaned over to me and whispered, "Lee, that athlete is a good friend of mine. And let me share with you, he is not making millions of dollars." I learned that day to check out my examples before I use them. You know, Jack loved flowers because he was always giving women flowers, always bringing flowers to Marcia. And Marcia said, there are probably some of you here today who have received flowers from Jack Jensen. You have probably received more flowers from him than you have from your husbands. But I still am contemplating in my mind this image. Marcia said that one morning she was taking a shower, and when she was getting out of the shower, Jack had brought her her breakfast tray, and it sat there in the bathroom. Now, I don't want that to get around. Jack loved people of all categories. And Jack had this special concern, this special way of about himself, that when you were in his presence, he was present with you. Not just physically, but mentally, you knew he was with you. One of the other things that Jean shared with me is that Jack always went back for a reunion at Elkin High School. And everyone looked forward to Jack coming. There was something, that special bond that he had with those students. But that wasn't the only reason he went back to Elkin. While he was a teacher there, he boarded with a couple in Elkin. And since that time, the man has died, but Jack had continued on a monthly basis to go to Elkin, stop by George E. Walker Florist in Winston-Salem and get a dozen roses, and then chocolate, is that right? And take it to this woman who is now in a nursing facility in Elkin. And Mel, that's that loyalty that you were talking about.